Hi, everyone. My name is Joshua Vonderheid, and I'm the founder of the Percussion Conservatory. And I am so excited and honored to be welcoming Mr. Joe Beam here on the platform for a percussion story. And Joe is going to be teaching with us later this month. And he is an incredible freelance musician and educator, and quite well known in Houston and all over the country for being one of our most prominent drum set players in both orchestras and for all sorts of musicals. So, Joe, we're going to get right into it. I would love for you to let us know about your early musical background, your first experience with percussion, and when you knew that you wanted to do percussion and music in college.
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thank you, Josh. So, like many of us, I started in sixth grade. That I was interested in percussion. I did the audition, I got accepted, and then we moved. I changed cities, and thankfully, um, they allowed me to stay in percussion. And I started with an incredible percussion director, um, legendary in both drum corps and here in Houston and Austin now. Rick Rodriguez, he started me and is just a phenomenal teacher. I was thankful to go through that program. I started taking lessons with him, and then when I got to high school, the great Alec Warren, who's now at U of H, um, he was the first freelancer I knew, and had the success in high school doing the region. I missed all state barely, but I started realizing that I'm okay at this percussion thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then through that early high school, I just couldn't imagine doing anything else. Started working with Alec, working on auditions stuff. Um, I went through the audition process, got into a few schools, um, and yeah, that's kind of when I knew.
I love that. You know, there's a famous Texas educator, Jerry Junkin, who was the
Absolutely.
leader of UT bands, and I believe still is, as far as I know. I saw him on Instagram recently talking about it. And he said, I was at the camp, I was at like high school camp, and he said, if you can imagine yourself doing like anything else besides music, you should probably go do that. Because if you're going to do music, you gotta do it. You got to be
You got to do it.
100% all in. And I think that that's a really special thing about musicians and artists in generals. There's just like, I really can't see myself doing almost anything else. And then maybe we get older and we find ourselves dabbling in other things, but there's this like core when you're going through it and you're learning, there's just this thing. It's like, I can't imagine devoting my entire life to anything else right now. And I find that in so many people I respect and have found a lot of success. It's really a through line. So that's really cool that you experienced that same feeling. And while we're on this theme of talking about collegiate educators, I'm curious where you went to have your collegiate percussion training and who your prominent teachers were, the schools you went to, any festivals you went to.
So yeah, that's a perfect segue. So getting into these colleges, at the time, I thought I was going to be a high school, at the time, 5A drumline instructor. That was the path that I saw for myself. And so that was kind of the schooling I was looking for. So I went up, did auditions at North Texas, at Sam Houston, and at University of Houston. Got accepted to all three, got scholarships, and I was set on North Texas. And then last minute, April, I believe, after talking to my teacher, this and that, and I changed my mind and I went to Sam Houston. And man, am I so glad I did. Um, Chris Devaney was there, not too shabby. I spent 2 years learning from him, and then he got his Philadelphia job. And I'm so thankful for those 2 years with him and the musicianship and the education that he brought us in those couple years. The funny thing about when I went to Sam Houston, I did not play drum set. I I played in
Oh,
a I played, we didn't have a jazz band in high school. We didn't have an orchestra. It was marching band, and we did some percussion ensemble and concert band, all at a very high level, but that was it. And so I got to Sam Houston, and they needed a drum set player for the second jazz band. I'm like, I can't even read a chart, but sure, I'll try. Like I've always wanted to. I had a drum set. I played in praise band at church in high school, but I wanted to try. And man, the rest is history. I played in the jazz band. I had great educators in the jazz band, the jazz band director, and no drum set lessons. That kind of came from hard work, but it got me playing musicals. It got me playing um, around town, and literally changed the direction of my life by making that choice, going there, and getting the opportunities that I would not have gotten at North Texas. I would have been studying percussion, and they had the whole jazz program, and so that definitely probably would not have happened besides my required lessons. And so went to Sam Houston, and then I went back to Sam Houston as a grad student, studying under John Lane, um, fantastic percussionist. His lineage is Sam Houston, North Texas CCM, um, and he's just a brilliant teacher and educator as well. From the the contemporary percussion to he marched Cavaliers, studied drum set with Ed Soph. So just a well-rounded, wonderful education from him for those 2 years doing percussion performance. So
Wow, that's really cool. You see someone and they're just so good at what they do. And I see you playing
thank you.
drum set most often when we've worked together and when I've seen you play. And I mean, that's incredible that you just like, oh, yeah, I played some kit in church. What? That's crazy. I also played some drum kit in high school. I did not end up like you. Okay. Moving
Well, thank you
on.
for that.
Yeah, moving on. So, what defining moment in your life do you feel like has had the most significant impact on your career?
Besides the previously named changing schools and getting that experience, there was one time I subbed for a drummer on a gig, um, around 2011, 2012. And by subbing that gig and meeting the music director of that show, and then playing these high school shows, and the people I met at doing that one job led me to this job and led me to meeting this person. And I can remember, working on this high school show with the previous drummer for Theater in the Stars, the theater here in Houston. Said, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town. I can't do this next gig. I'm going to send them your name." Great. I was super thankful. I remember waiting for that phone call and meeting, him and getting that recommendation. And then that was April 2017, 2014. And then 10 years ago almost, or 11, 11 years almost. Um, and, and then from doing that is where I met Richard Brown. Richard Brown, they got he got a call here. He called the personnel manager for Tuts and said, "Hey, who are you calling these days?" He's like, "Oh, I got this guy Joe Beam," because Richard was like, "Hey, I've got this New Year's gig. It's a Broadway thing. You'd be perfect." And that's where I met Richard. And then Richard's like, "Hey, you need to be playing with the Houston Symphony. Let me see what I can do." And I can look back and see these moments of, and it all led back to 2011 when I subbed that gig and met someone and it's been a word of mouth and just um, a lineage of working hard and making those connections.
Yeah, I mean, old quote, not my quote, but they say like there is no luck. Luck is just being prepared all of the time at the absolute best of your ability so that when your opportunity comes, you can walk through that door, you
That is
know?
so true. Absolutely.
And so it's, yeah, I hear these stories all the time where it's like, and then I had my big break. It's like, sure, you grinded for a decade, and then you were extremely good and someone got sick and then everyone noticed, it's like that's, or
Yes.
whatever, however it happens. Right. So I just don't, there is some amount of luck, like in, orchestra auditions or whatever else, where it's like you're just having an amazing day and all your muscles are firing the right way. You play your
Mhm.
best day, but most of it, what I find is people being really prepared and being really good people, kind people, generous people, 100% of the time, and then good things happen, and then
Absolutely.
it's a math game from there. It's a timing game of when that opportunity will come. But then, it was one musical, but then Joe, it wasn't just one musical. Now it's been over 100 musicals. And this is not like some random superlative that I invented. This is an actual fact because Joe's been tracking it for like 20 years of all the different musicals that he's played. And he's just very diligently, every time he goes and plays a musical, he's got a big chart on his website. You guys can go check it out on his website. And he's got 100 different musicals, and many of them, obviously, you've played them many times. So if you
Yes.
had to choose just one, which one would it be, and why is that?
The amazing thing about playing musicals and pops gigs really is you never know what style you're getting next. You have
Hmm.
to be ready for all of them. And of these, now I think 142 or whatever it is, it's up to um, everything from the classics to today. Just got finished playing Frozen, which is up there. Man, what a fun show, fun book to play. But my favorite, if I had to pick, is In the Heights. Lin
Mm.
Manuel Miranda's first musical. It's Latin, it's hip hop, it is incredible. It's so much fun. And when I first played that show, switching back and forth between the 2/3 and 3/2 cascaras and all these things, does not come natural. It's stuff I know and stuff I work on, but I had to work on that show, and man, it paid off, and it's such a fun thing to play. Second on the list would be Legally Blonde. It is just a great drum book, and that's kind of how I base it.
I
Just
bet you
what's
were
fun to
playing.
play.
My wife went to see that show in Houston. Actually, yeah,
2016.
yeah. My wife. Okay, so it wasn't 2016. So sadly,
So Legally Blonde or In the Heights.
no, Legally Blonde. She went to
Oh,
see Legally Blonde, I think. But or maybe I might be getting it confused. But anyways, I know that she saw a musical recently and she loved it. So I assumed it had to be you because you're playing like all of them all of the
it
time.
was
Um,
probably unfortunately a tour, so I haven't played that one downtown yet, but it's it's a
I
it's a
okay.
blast to play.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. Um, I was going to also share a little tidbit of information, a funny little anecdote that after I think it was COVID, and then got back, played just a couple shows with my orchestra in Malaysia, and then moved back here to America and didn't play kind of any shows for a while. Was like reestablishing myself here in Houston. Took the sublist audition, but that was like a year after I arrived. Then it took time to get worked in. Hadn't been playing anything for like a long time and then get a phone call. Hi, can you play Mary Poppins in 30 minutes? And I go and I go over and I am sight reading this percussion book for Mary Poppins and just can you remind me the name of the incredible woman percussionist who usually plays that show with you?
Love you right. Love
Oh,
you.
I don't. I
Uh,
am so sorry. I am so sorry to her. Like I just did
uh,
not have. I did not have it on fire that day. And Joe's over there just nailing everything. Played the show a million billion
uh,
times, or at least is acting like it. Guys, if you ever get the opportunity to sub on a show, definitely go do it. But just prepare to have nightmares for like the next week and a half. Just like it was
I
that was so hard. That's the hardest thing I
I
think
got
I've
to
ever had to do musically.
I got to sit in one chair and just hit the things around me. Subbing in on a percussion job, last minute, no prep. Dude, you did amazing, and that's the truth. Like, it's a hard
Thank you.
show. First of all, you don't know the choreography. You don't know where the instruments are. You don't know where the mallets are. Like, man, it's not an easy job to come in last minute, and you killed it. And
But
and it was an honor doing that with you.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. But
Yeah,
what really it gave me such a huge respect, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the platform so much and to come
thank you.
teach with us is that experience just blew my mind of how difficult that is because a lot of people that is the way they break into the industry is like and then you get called up and then here you go and you have to
Yeah.
be able to execute under that pressure and so I look forward to discussing a little bit about that during the residency and maybe even here today. So in addition to musicals, Joe, you've performed also a wide variety of pops concerts here in Houston Symphony. I've seen you play out in Cleveland Orchestra and all over the place. And I'm wondering what it takes to be a great kit player in the orchestra.
What a great question. And I'm so thankful to have played in Cleveland and also played with Akron Symphony, um, and then also, of course, the wonderful Houston Symphony. And in preparation for these classes, I actually reached out to several of the conductors I've worked with to see not what they think of me, but what do they want in a drummer. Their answers were all very similar. one, the drummer has to know style. Whether it's a jazz tune or a Broadway show or Motown. I've done a best of the '80s, one hit wonders, all kind of different genres, and had to be ready for all of them. So
Mm,
similar to musical theater, you got to know your styles. A very resounding answer that I heard was the conductor does not want to worry about the drummer. They want to start the tempo, and you got to have good tempo and just keep it moving. When it's time for a transition, watch and then drive the orchestra again. And then, uh, along those lines is to be flexible. Maybe something needs to go faster than it's gone in rehearsal. Maybe it needs to go slower. Maybe something's happened. The conductor's in charge of so much, as we all know, and just to be flexible. There are times where I might miss something in a rehearsal because I'm watching the conductor more than I'm looking at my music. I know I've got 16 bars or whatever or something changed, but I'm trying to watch the conductor more than the music, and that way, if they look at me, they've got my eyes all the time. Um, and then the last, uh, not last, but another important thing is to play dynamically.
mm,
I often will coach students getting ready for some of these auditions, and one of the first comments is just relax the dynamics in what they're playing, and that's true when we play with the orchestra. I try not to get the hand that says too much, because often in these times as well, I'm front and center. It's like conductor, the end of the piano, and drum set, and I'm right there, surrounded by the orchestra, and so my sound gets to the conductor quickly, and if I can keep any dynamics comments as far as being too loud, I try that for sure. You got to
and
still have the energy and have the style, like the drive. It may be a rock tune, but you got to play it controlled. So those are three quick important things.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but you coached Charlie Rosemarin before he just won and is now tenured with the Philadelphia Orchestra.
That is correct, and man, and he was playing amazingly. I was honored to hear him play before he went up to that audition, and West Side's on there and Styles and this and that, and so we just talked about a few things. Like he was playing well, and I gave just my thoughts on a few things. And I remember getting that text like, "Hey, I just played finals. I thought about you while I was playing the drum set," and then sure enough, he won it. And it's amazing to have 0.0000000 keep going 1% of that. Just to be associated with him. I'm super proud of him and for him.
That's awesome. And we're very proud, speaking of being proud, of being sponsored by Majestic Percussion. And actually, both of us here are Majestic artists, both Joe
Mhm.
and I. And Joe, I'd love for you in just a second to talk about your Majestic experience. But for me, they have been just such a huge support of what we do in education, and in
Mhm.
help bringing world class instruments to young people. And when especially when they started helping me, I would consider myself, in the grand scheme of things, a young person. And without their support, percussion conservatory just would not have happened in those early days. And I'm so grateful for their contributions and the way they help young people spearhead projects and get themselves off the ground. And we thank them very, very much for being our principal sponsor at the PC. And
Absolutely.
so, Joe, how long have you been a Majestic artist?
Oh, it's been, I think, 2 years now coming up. I met Nick at a TMEA, actually Texas Music Educators Association convention. I was there and stopped to talk to him, check out some of the gear, and and we kept in touch after I left, and he super wonderful and accepted me on, um, as an educator and artist, and just yeah, it's been super supportive. The drum sets you'll see in the videos, coming up are not Majestic, obviously, but they're the parent company Mapex, and they've just taken great care of me. So I'm super thankful for Majestic and their support.
That's awesome. I mean, and duh, of course they are. That's a no-brainer. I should have thought of that right away. But yeah, that'll be so cool to see the gear in the videos as well coming up. We're really excited to have you come teach with us, Joe. And
Thank you so much.
I want to get into a few more fun questions before we let you go today. Got some fun stuff. One thing is that I know that you've played in some big old Texas super churches, and I'm just curious how that's been, a part of your career. How does that scene work? Like, was there an audition process? Like, how I don't know anything about that world and about how to get employed with those people. I'd love for you to fill us in about what your experience has been playing with churches.
So I realized this recently. I'm coming up on 20 years as a church musician.
Wow.
Um, In fact, my very first paid gig was in high school, was a Easter gig for a church. But as far as being, a drummer, percussionist, I started almost 20 years ago, and that first job was auditioned. I was still in college. One of my trombone buddies played, um, and said, "Hey, they're looking for a drummer. Are you interested?" I'm like, yeah, like heck yeah, I'll take $150 a week. It was,
Yeah.
it's like as a college student, it was fantastic. And so I went auditioned and got the job, and I was there 12 years. And it was a church in the Woodlands, Texas, that just took great care of me, and built so many wonderful relationships and just experience there. Um, After I decided to leave, going to church and being able to be a musician in church is super important to me. Um, as a Christian and as someone of faith, like um, it never was work. I was there playing drums, but I was going to be there anyway, and so it was easy to stay in one place regardless of the pay, because it was what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Since then, I've moved on. I've played at some bigger churches than that one. It's coming in and subbing to these churches that are just such on a timeline and rapid fire and ready not. Here we go. Like, and the rest of my jobs since then have been word of mouth. I'm now on my third, um, not full time, but I would say permanent church job in the last 20 years. Um, and it's just been a great experience, and you never know the services are the same, but the styles are different. From playing again dynamically, the new church that I'm at, it's small, and so it's a lot of brushes and brooms and being more creative in a percussion sense behind the drum set, than playing a big megachurch. So, uh, happy to talk to anyone about that more in detail if you're interested.
I love that. Also, I got the terminology wrong. I called them super church, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is Houston, Texas. It's called mega
Hey now,
church. All right, mega
megachurch.
church. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's called mega church.
And I didn't
Um,
even catch you said that, so we're good.
yeah, that's too funny. So, speaking of Houston and Texas and my pandemic experience, I felt like was really unique. If I haven't told this story to you, if you're first time hearing this out there on YouTube, I got stuck on an island for 6 months with my now wife Jenny, and yeah, we were on the island of Bali for like half a year with backpacks because we got stranded
Wow.
there, which was crazy. And so what I've learned is that always ask everyone their pandemic story. And I noticed that your daughters were born like just months after the pandemic started, and it was twin daughters, and I was like, that's a story. So how did that influence like your early journey as a parent? I'm so curious about this.
Well, first of all, like if you guys could survive an island together, like you
we're
balance it's wonderful.
we're gonna be married a long time. Yeah, that's not we're
That's
we're no doubters. Like, yeah, we went through it. We got through all of it way early. We were like, all those like, oh, is it gonna work living together? It's like, let me tell you
well,
something. Deserted island, you're gonna figure it out pretty quick. So yeah, we're pretty strong. Yeah, it's awesome.
I can't wait to hear more about that. So yeah, the I went on, because when I'm not playing, I'm a teacher, and so I went on spring break in March and never went back. My wife was pregnant; she went on bed rest, and this was March. My girls were born in June, 2 months early. Twin girls; they were so tiny. but all
Oh.
my work stopped. Every gig was canceled. Um, School didn't come back, and so it was crazy. All my income was gone. It was scary. But what happened when my girls were born June 20th, less than 2 weeks later, I got a call from the Houston Symphony, and they were doing a July 4th gig that was televised only, small orchestra, 6 feet apart, all the things. You need to get a COVID test, and my girls were in the NICU. They were, and so I remember my wife and I talking like, should I even do this? Is it safe? Like, it was a scary time for sure. And so decided to do it. Went and got my test, and played this televised um, gig with the Houston Symphony and two local rappers. And so it was like, when the Houston Symphony plays Big Pimpin', you know it's going to be a good show. Like,
That's awesome. I love that.
it was like, and I remember getting so many comments and Facebook messages and this and that, like, oh, I see you on TV, because everybody was home and everybody was watching. There was nothing else to do at that time. So that was my first gig back, shortly, very shortly after my girls were born. And then, really, for that first year, the only jobs I had were Houston Symphony gigs. They did a shout out to them for the amazing work and everything that they did to keep musicians busy. They did a lot more, a lot smaller things that had drum sets. So I was thankful for the work. It was 22 months before I did a theater gig again. And of course, we went back online in September teaching, and it was just trying times as far as work goes. However, being able to not have any work and just spend time with my girls that were in the NICU for 46 days, and then come home and just be a dad, there's nothing better. If you know me, or what you'll find, like, my girls are my everything. And so I look back on the pandemic and I think, what a blessing that I didn't have any work and got to just be with them.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's why I ask. Like, it's inspiring. Everyone has a great COVID story. It's almost impossible to not have a good one. And so I love asking. Although it was like a very, like, sometimes, yeah, it was a trying time for a lot of people. But there's always, like, everyone got through it and they found amazing ways to persevere through that time. And that's so cool. It's so cool. And congratulations, many years belated now, but congratulations on being an awesome dad. That's so cool. I love that
Thank you
story.
so much.
I know, now some fun stuff, that you're a longtime Astros fan. I've seen pictures of you, like, supporting the Astros when you were younger than me. You're a young man. You're a young man. And you're a baseball enthusiast. And I want to know, what was it about that sport, or what continues to be about that sport, that really captivates you?
So I played baseball from, your first year of playing t-ball at whatever age. I played for 10 years until I got to high school. And it was either baseball or band. And I think I went the right direction. But, like, it's always been a part of my life, playing baseball and watching baseball. I remember the first game with my dad, and just, I've always been an Astros fan. I've always, lived in Houston, born and raised, and been a local sports fan. And so the Astros are my team. And I know there are a lot of opinions out there. Please don't judge.
All right, all right. They're your team, but there's also pictures of, like, you in, like, Pittsburgh Pirates gear, and there's pictures of, like, okay, okay,
Absolutely.
okay. So, like, what's
So,
going on there? Because I saw some stuff. I was like, is this guy a Stroh's fan? What's happening here?
so the yeah, all about life. My wife and I actually went to high school together, but we were different. I was band nerd, she was athlete, and just opposite. Well, many years later, um, I we kept in touch on Facebook, and I was taking a trip to spring training to go watch the Astros. I'd always wanted to do it. I drove to West Palm. It was the first year in West Palm Beach, and I sent her a text. Said, "Hey, I thought about you," because she's a big baseball fan. And I said, "I'm going to Astros. I'm going to Disney. Just thought I'd say hi." And here we are, these years later now. And so her and her son, my stepson, are big baseball people and have this tradition of going to all stadiums. And so when I came into the family, we kept that tradition going. So we go to all the stadiums. I've been to 15, they've been to 22. And the deal is we go when they don't play the Astros and we wear the home team. And it's so much fun to see
Okay.
the different parks. So my favorite stadium actually is Pittsburgh. You mentioned that. What a beautiful stadium. Um, but I've been to 15 of the 30. I wear the home team and root for them. And so when I went and played in Cleveland most recently, Maestro and I went to a Guardians game, and how much fun! Like it's the sport that national pastime. So
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. I knew there had to be a story. I found a Pittsburgh jersey and I was like, there's a story. There's
what?
got to be. Because I've seen you
That
always with Astros gear, even out
always.
and about. Like once upon a time, I saw you with like a shirt, just like you're a fan, So I was
I'm a
like,
fan.
there's got to be something. Okay. Now, finally, what's one thing about you that most people might be surprised to learn, Joe?
Ooh, I am really bad at golf. I know that's hard to believe, but I'm terrible at golf. No, so my if I weren't doing music, I would be doing something with computers or software. I love technology. I love uh, creating, databases, and I create these click tracks. And if you know Ableton Live or heard of it, like the last show I did, Frozen, we ran click track, we ran MIDI notes from this computer to that computer to control the lights. Like I love everything technology, and that's what I spend my time doing is learning software or building these databases or something like that. And it's the other side of me that most people probably don't know.
That's awesome. I love that. Do you do any work in that professionally, or is it all just amateur? Like it's all influencing your percussion playing, or is there stuff that you do that's just like completely in a different direction?
So some of the click track stuff, I've actually started getting some professional work. I build these systems that will
Oh,
run through a whole show, tempo changes, vamps, this and that, whatever. As far as like databases and this and that, I actually have a friend here in Houston who has a contracting business, and it's all automated. He does all this kind of stuff, and it's on a database that I built for him. So most
wow.
of it's amateur and fun. Like I still need to learn how to code. That's the next thing on my list. I've dabbled a little bit. It's been a long time since high school computer science, but
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. Because it's always fun. Like as soon as you get paid to do something, you're pro. Doesn't matter how much. $5, you're a pro, right?
A
So I was
pro.
just curious. Yeah, yeah. So you're a pro. Like you're doing
I'm
stuff.
a
You're getting
pro.
paid. That's really cool. That I did not know that about you, and now I've got like a lot of ideas.
Hey,
so
let's
so
talk.
we'll talk. But Joe, this has been so much fun, and it's so just an honor to have you coming to teach with us soon. Everyone, come check out Joe's classes with us. You can, if you're a member, you can play for Joe and you can get feedback on your playing on drum set stuff or on anything. As he was just saying, the guy studied with Chris Davini. I mean, it's going to be great. So there's lots of stuff that we can glean from Mr. Beam. And I'm really, really, I'm just excited to make a new friend with you. And it's always great to work with fellow Houstonians. So Joe, thanks so much for all your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm really looking forward to this, and looking forward to talking with you all.
Awesome. Well, guys, we will see you at the next one. It's been a percussion story with Mr. Joe Beam. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.